Eddington is a movie that you just can't look away from. Say what you want about Ari Aster and his past films, that they're usually overwrought with symbolism and existentialism, maybe even a bit pretentious, but Eddington has got to be one of the most straightforward looks at our current existence that there is. There is nothing more here than everything your eyes see, just some honest blips and blurbs of everyday life in the year 2025. Blink and you might miss what you're probably already numb to in real life. Every character represents something/someone that we are all accustomed to dealing with. So let's do a character essay on each person and what they represent for the larger chaos in Eddington. If you like this kind of content, sub to my YouTube or follow me on here. My YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram are all linked in my link tree, so go on there. So let's get started. The mother. The mom in this movie is always running her mouth about something that she found on the internet or her late husband and how he would have been so ashamed of the current world he supposedly did so much to build. She represents a very obvious form of millennial and Gen Z parents. They are easily fooled and stuck in a past that no longer exists. She pushes everyone away when she forces her rhetoric down their throats. She's a bother to her daughter, who ends up cutting her off and accusing her of being the reason why she's so anxious. We are seeing the family unit deteriorate more and more because of the parents that cannot assimilate to what is happening in the real world. Furthermore, her antics at the end suggest that she is helping fund/build a world that is corporatized and commodified, like many boomers have been doing, passing down a broken system in which they reap the benefits. She also buys Ted's old home, the home of a Latino man that is technically a part of a reservation, a white woman using her disabled son-in-law as a prop who used to be in law enforcement, to live on land that is not hers in a house that she only acquired because of the violent actions of her son-in-law. Using the disabled to forward your agenda, seen it. Using law enforcement to make sure you get what you want, accurate. Louise, she's a tragic character. She is anxious and trying to figure herself out. She meets a man who spouts things on the internet that she finds relatable. She's hooked. Vernon seems to offer her something that she wants, to get away from everything and start over, to get away from her mother and the town that makes her feel like she is slowly being closed in on, to get away from the husband that doesn't take her needs into consideration when he has an agenda. The disillusion of her marriage to Joe is not slow. He's kind to her, but it isn't enough. As kooky as Vernon is, he still listens to her, something that Joe doesn't seem to do. Women these days are choosing to leave marriages because their needs aren't being met. She's also unhappy with Joe using her as a prop for his political agenda, telling her deepest, darkest secrets to sow divide between the community and his opponent, and to also seem relatable, just like political pundits usually do. They use real people with real problems as props to propel themselves toward a political career that they envision. Joe, he's a white guy in law enforcement on a rampage because he feels like his views are being underrepresented. He gains momentum for his political career through an encounter at the grocery store when he doesn't want to follow the mask mandate. He isn't one note, though. He is a dynamic character who shows that he cares about the people in his community. Furthermore, he does have asthma, so it may actually be hard for him to breathe in the mask, who knows. But he doesn't understand that the other people care too, and that's why they are wearing masks. Not to annoy or upset anyone, they also believe that what they are doing helps everyone in their community. He sees what they're doing as inhumane, and they see him the exact same way, inconsiderate and posturing for the sake of being an annoying asshole. Joe seems to be a decent dude, but when he's backed into a corner, you see what he's really made of. He's rage-filled and possessive of his town. When Ted slaps him in the face, he doesn't react with a punch or a slap back, or even yelling like anybody else would do. He goes home so fast, gets his weapon, and unleashes everything. He goes to the most extreme level of anger so quickly because he can't handle being made a fool of. But he fell right into Ted's trap by going over to his house. He couldn't back down and resist a fight that he technically started when he mentioned Louise's affiliation with Ted. He looks somewhat justified in the movie sense because he was taunted a few times. Like, obviously in real life, nobody's gonna justify his actions, but in a movie, maybe. But ultimately, if he had never mentioned anything like what happened to Louise and played into Ted's trap, then he would never have gotten this sort of disrespect in the first place. So his entire life wouldn't have been ruined if he didn't do the things that he did, but he blames everyone else but himself and seeks revenge. Furthermore, when he gets the chance, he frames Michael for his crimes against Ted and his son, counting on the fact that people are the worst and will definitely fall for it. Tully is annoying, and he's the more blatant version of prejudice in the movie. He says what he wants out loud instead of pretending like he's anything but awful. He feels emboldened when Joe runs for mayor, and that's enough said on that subject because I think everyone can make a tie back to exactly what's happening there. Sarah is underage and trying to find political standing in a world that is increasingly saturated with online political rhetoric that just seems so strange and alien offline. There are talking points, and she comes across as annoying, and honestly, she doesn't seem like she has an actual grasp of the real world or how it functions, and she shouldn't because she's young and she's navigating something that even people with lived experience have a hard time navigating, the year of 2025. I think the worst part is that she comes off disingenuous, almost like a hippie who ends up with a corporate job in their 30s or at a corporate job in their 30s. She seems like she's taking up a cause because it's popular and that's what everyone wants to see online. So it'll be interesting when her age group starts to grow up to see what they actually align themselves with politically once they get to adulthood. Brian, I swore he was going to get red-pilled so quick, but he did not get red-pilled. It was weird. I don't know what to make of his character. He became a young man that seemed annoyingly online, who capitalized off of his fame, and we see that a ton everywhere on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, everywhere. Ted isn't great, but he doesn't go on a rampage and stuff everyone in his town out, so I guess there's that. He does seem snarky, and he goads his political opponents to the point where they want to take him out, which is not great. He's high and mighty about himself and about his son, and we don't really see him being corrupt, but he is douchey and all about appearances. He stands for absolutely nothing and is largely inconsequential, like a certain political party, an entire political party that I know of. Vernon, he's like many other people on the internet that seem to have lost their minds on any specific subject. He doesn't seem to have an opinion or a political affiliation so much as he's just like a free agent roaming around the internet and getting other people to agree with him on real issues that he's gone pretty much off the deep end over. Does trafficking happen? Yes, absolutely. But the extent to which people take allegations and theories is sometimes wild. We don't see him putting anyone in harm's way or anything. We don't see him being a bad person. We actually don't know much about him. He's pretty mysterious, but we can tell that he has likely got a lot of trauma going on and that he's working through that trauma and he's not all there. I would love to go into great detail about the state of the world when it comes to psychology and buzzwords because I said the word trauma and I think there's more to be said about this character. And it's not just armchair psychologists either online. It's board certified psychologists online talking about things. I think understanding ourselves has gone kind of off the deep end, in my opinion. So one of these days, not now, because I could talk about this for hours, but I'm going to go and do a whole video on it. Anyway, let's move on to Mike. Man, you hate to see it, but Mike seemed torn the entire time he was in the movie. Sarah wanted to use him, the police were using him, then the police framed him, and so they were using him in a different way, but it was really satisfactory to see Mike filming Joe at the end of the movie. Filming the police with a sense of satisfaction, not because Sarah told him to or that she told him how to feel, but because he felt it all by himself, standing there sort of mocking Joe. He was also embroiled in a mess with Sarah, who is not 18, and there is something more to be said about Mike and his story. He denies that he was ever with Sarah, like physically. This is also something that we see constantly, men and women messaging underage people, denying it, or sometimes embracing it, because the spaces that they are in are blurring the lines between adult and child more and more. Sure, on AIM, you could message a man twice your age. Now with social media, you're always on. always constantly on a platform where they're adults and with 24/7 access to each other. This just makes things like P word on TikTok and Instagram all the more accessible. Suggestive images and videos are easily bypassed by just stating that you're 18. This isn't the computer at home in the living room anymore, where you kind of have to watch yourself. This is everywhere, literally everywhere. The world has completely blurred the line between adult and child interaction at this point, in my opinion. Ted's son, there's not much to say about him. He's kind of awful. He's a little bitch boy, and he has no loyalty to his friends, but he's really just your average kid. Not much else to say about him. I would say that this movie isn't up for interpretation, but it is a perspective dependent movie. I can see this being seen as an attack on one side or the other based on whoever is watching it and their political affiliation. So watch it, see what you come up with. Peace out. Bye.